So I was over at Dave Hodges' site, and he had two really interesting reports. One was the House Intelligence Committee is looking at the Chinese credit and how much of it's come here. And I would say that if you believe that they're just, looking at prevention, you're being very naive. Uh, they want to bring about these things for the AI through Palantir, through Edadel, through the computer systems to control what we say and to punish us, just like Obama said that behavioral. I forget how he phrased it, but behavioral something was coming before he left, and it was kind of creepy. The note that he left it on. But Google has tools, this Operation Dragonfly, where they have worked with the AI and they control what the Chinese are able to see. And then, of course, they have all the spy cameras and everything, and it all works together to go after people. And we have them here. And he's going to say and attribute this just to the Democrats, but I would tell you that it's all of Congress together. Whether they're red or blue, they're all in the same team. Mason.
Development is taking place in the House of Representatives, and in particular on the House Intelligence Committee. Now you have to keep in mind that committee is chaired by a Democrat, and Democrats comprise the majority membership. And I'm a little shocked at the topic that they're looking at. In fact, I'm stunned. Hey, remember, I don't surprise easily. I do this work every day. I'm deeply embedded in this. But even I am surprised by the actions of some of these Democrats. And there's a two-edged sword here that we're going to explore on the Common Sense Show. My name is Dave Hodges. I am the host of the Common Sense Show, and we are the show that is freeing America one enslaved mind at a time. And we're brought to you by the Noble Gold IRA. I have been issues related to China. Now, that's not surprising in itself. China is our number one threat. Make no mistake about it. But they're looking at two things that I thought, wow, this is really interesting. One is they're looking at the social credit system, and they're trying to make a determination how much of that is coming here. Why? Because they're focusing on Google, and Google is the author of the social credit system in China, where you can go to prison for putting the most innocuous things by our standards on the internet, or they can simply deperson you. In other words, I've told the story before about when Patrick Wood was on my radio show, and he's an expert on technocracy, and he looked into this. He actually interviewed a lady from China who put something on the internet which was relatively mild. The Men in Black showed up, and they said to her, well, explain yourself, lady. And she did. And she said, look, I had kind of a bad day. I'm sorry. And really, in the scale of things here in America, this would be about a 1.5 on a scale of 1 to 10. And she thought she was okay. They left without arresting her. But then she got a notice in the mail. You're being evicted from your apartment by the end of the month. Then she got another notice. You're evicted from your university. Then she got another notice. You cannot use public transportation any longer. So they basically went through the process of deplatforming her on a personal level. We call it depersoning here in the industry. And Congress is looking at, are those elements present here? Yes, because we're looking at censorship in the media, especially the social media, being used to deprive employment. I've lost employment over my website. There are many people who make the same claim. And so we look at that. We look at financial discrimination by Bank of America and Wells Fargo. So the House Intelligence Committee is looking at this social credit system by Google and how much of it has come here. Now, if that's not bad enough, because Google is not, let's put it this way, Google is not the friend of every freedom-loving American. In fact, actually, there are dire enemies. And along those lines, Congress is looking at a second issue. The House Intelligence Committee is seeking testimony on how much Google is helping the Chinese military. And what's really ironic about this is it was about 2 months ago when 4,000 Google employees signed a petition saying they weren't going to work on a project because it had Department of Defense implications and they weren't going to help the American war machine. But Google turns right around and is helping improve the technology of Chinese high-tech weaponry. That's called treason. And they need to be dealt with on that level. And do you see why I am shocked that the Democrats, of all people, are looking at this? But then I went and looked at some of the Democrats that are on that committee. And without going into great detail, and I'll probably write an article on this as a follow-up where I'll detail who the individuals are and what all their backgrounds are. But most of these Democrats that are on this intelligence committee are actually pretty responsible people. They're cut out of the mold of people like Tulsi Gabbard, who
And I didn't even want to hear him defend part of Congress. It doesn't matter in the end. It really truly doesn't matter. Now, this goes hand in hand with another report that he had that I want to show you. It's this one right here.
I never thought I'd be reporting this, and I'm really shocked, dismayed. I'm so saddened. I'm basically depressed. I'm angry, and I've shared all these emotions with my friends across the independent media, and we all pretty much feel the same way. Donald Trump is abandoning his base in the face of the El Paso and the Dayton shootings. No, do I think we should do something about it? Yes, that's another topic for another time. I want these killings to stop, absolutely, positively, and I would contribute to helping stop them if I was asked to do so. And yes, I do think I know how to stop the majority of them. Another topic for another time. But Donald Trump is engaged in a behavior that I never thought I would see this president in, because I thought he was a champion for the people. My name is Dave Hodges. I'm the host of The Common Sense Show, and we're the show that is freeing America one enslaved mind at a time. And we are brought to you by Off Again. I've seen the demonstration for this. It's so effective. When we look at what Trump is doing, he is in full agreement and in league and in concert with the social media sites that say that they want to search content on their platforms and they want to seek out examples of what? They want to seek out examples of insightful rhetoric that could cause people to commit violence. Here's the danger in all this, too. It's all in the eye of the beholder. So if I've insulted some group politically or culturally, and I've said they have no business being in power because of 1, 2, and 3, and now they're in charge of my review, do you think they're going to be biased against me? Now, I always say in there I advocate for nonviolent change. I'm really, really clear and open about this. That doesn't mean they can't ignore my warning and say, well, yeah, I think Hodges, you're crossing the line there. Your website's shut down. That's what's coming, folks. That is the danger, and your president is participating in it. I couldn't believe when I saw the reports today on Fox. I went over to CNN. They almost halfway paid him a compliment for doing this. Can you possibly, in the listening audience, reverse this for me? Make me change my mind. Please convince me that I'm wrong, that the president will never do anything like this.
I think it's foolish and silly
And then ask yourself,
to even continue with his line of thought. Convince me Trump isn't doing this. So it's all being predicated on these shootings that are taking place. But there's another layer to all this, and it leads right back to the stinkiness of Noahide. So there may be more to it than this. I'm still trying to locate the articles that he's discussing and talking about. Unfortunately, Dave never puts links in, so you kind of have to go search for it yourself. But two things that he's always really big on is no anti-Semitism, which he says is disagreeing with Israel, and the shootings. And of course, murder is a horrible thing. Nobody likes murder. Murder's an awful thing. But what they want to do, so they're telling you one thing, but it's going to be so much more than that. And again, he's a Mason that's pretending to be a Christian. So hate speech is not just what you think they're presenting to you on the surface, that somebody goes and they kill somebody and that's a horrible thing, but they want to use this ultimately to control what you're able to say with free speech, even if it's unkind. Although, so sorry that sometimes people say unkind things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to go out and blow away people. We have always had murder. We have always had a right to be able to say whatever we want. But now this is all changed because of the advent of this AI and this ability to now control what everybody does. And they're going to use this as a means of controlling you. And it bears research to find out everything Dave is talking about, but I want to show you something. Now, this show is not going to be here very long, and they've already told you that, but I want to look at this little part that they talk about right here. The Sanhedrin promotes Noahide laws. Now, get this, watch this. As a solution to mass shootings, and at the same time, President Trump promotes red flag laws that will infringe on our constitutional freedoms. Are the two connected? And then they talk about some other stuff too. Also, the wolves are entering Christian congregations promoting so-called corporate salvation, yoking with the house of Israel, the physical DNA Israel that rejects Jesus, that negates the salvation you attain through Christ alone, through grace alone, and they are trying to persuade you that you have another step to take towards redemption through the Noahide. The step being leaving your Christian faith and taking upon yourself the destiny of the fleshly Jews and this one world entity that is coming. And of course, they would say that New World Order speech, anything post apocalyptic, anything biblical is all part of that hate speech. And they want to root that out. And they're going to say that they're doing all this to control shootings, but really what it's being used for is to control people that do not agree with this new world order that's coming and labeling that hate speech and everything else. Now, in addition to that, and they start talking about that here in this really long video. State gun groups aren't happy. Trump is supporting red flag laws. So this is probably along the lines of what Dave is talking about, although there certainly may be more. But then what they do is they go in to the Breaking Israel News piece, and it says Sanhedrin attributes mass shootings epidemic to lack of adherence to the Noahide laws. And one of them is do not murder. And they act as though we don't have laws that say do not murder, and we don't have jails that house people for breaking those laws, and they act like people don't go to, well, sometimes uh, to their death based on what they do. So they want to put these Noahide laws in to control you, and much could be said about that. And I will leave a link so that you can check out some of these different articles. And this video, they warned, will not be up for very long. So you might want to go record it and stick it on your computer through a recording program, which is probably maybe what I will do as well. But the one other thing that I wanted to show you really quick, this also goes along with it. Remember, Trump and the Kabbalist Israelis are all working together, the Masons. So you have Rabbi Sam Cohen, and he says, stop the modern blasphemy of hate speech, written in the tail end of 2018, a new Noahide covenant. And I'll put also this in the description box too, if I can pull this page down. Basically, what he is going to say is that because we are all made in the divine image, which is what Kabbalah teaches, and the Jews actually believe that they're divine entities, that they're essentially God in some very strange way in their Kabbalah teachings. They are equating this issue of the blasphemy, the anti-blasphemy of the 7 Noahide laws, and you can go to noahide.org to learn more about that, which result in beheadings. He is going to tell you that if you murder someone that, or, well, not only if you murder them, but if you have hate speech, if you disagree with the Jews, if you criticize the Jews, then you are essentially committing this blasphemy, and therefore you are going to get your head cut off. And he says that here in this article that I'll put down below so you can check it out yourself, talking about blasphemy and noting how it's a little bit different than the other 6 laws. And then he defines what he means by blasphemy And it's if you disagree with the Jews, you're an anti Semite. And then he begs the question, what if blasphemy is actually hate speech? This is horrendously dangerous, but this is why they have staged all these shootings, whether there was actual bloodshed or not. There probably was, but these were all set up in advance to bring you closer to the Noahide, which is already part of the law.